Hello, my name is Jill Bowen, CEO of Northwestern Medical Center and your host of the NMC Health Beat Show, dedicated to discussing important healthcare topics of interest to our community. Today, I'm talking with Robyn Alvis. She's NMC's Chief Financial Officer, and I'm so happy to have this opportunity to introduce her to our community. So welcome, Robyn.
Thank you.
And welcome to St. Albans and Northwestern Medical Center. It's great to have you here. And I know folks are going to just want to know a little bit about you, so maybe tell us a little bit about your background and why you landed at Northwestern Medical Center.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to be here, and I did choose Vermont, even though I'm originally from Alabama. Nashville, Tennessee is my home, but for the greater part of 20 years, I covered the Northeast. And so just fell in love with it. Being from the South, I love having 4 seasons, and what's not to like about New England and Vermont? It's beautiful.
It is. Now, when you think about your background and being at Northwestern, what do you bring to Northwestern, do you think, at this time in Northwestern Medical's, history? I mean, what do you bring?
Sure. Well, I think I've been very fortunate in my career to wear a lot of hats as part of a growing company. I've been in for-profit, not-for-profit situations, and the ability of just working with physicians, working with hospitals, different iterations of changes to our reimbursement system. And of course, Vermont is key to that. And again, one of the reasons that I chose Vermont for what we're trying to do here with healthcare reform. I have always been on the forefront of scalability of operations, of financial and data analytics, and I think in the environment that we're in, that experience and really being able to present information in a more visual way around very complicated topics, I think it positions me well for what NMC needs, as well as just the ongoing work of good financial stewardship for the organization.
Absolutely. So what departments or what does your division look like? So describe to folks, what does, the finance division look like?
Sure. So pretty much we handle, obviously, the business affairs of the office around finance, financing, daily accounting, tracking of departmental information. The patient service areas that are under my purvey are health information management systems and department. That includes our coding. It also includes some regulatory work around billing compliance and being in compliance with government programs. Also have our patient access. So when the patient first contacts NMC, we hope to provide a consistent experience there and get the patient to their appointment scheduled and with the right provider and answer any questions they may have along the way. And then we wrap around on the back end as well. Once the patient has been seen or received a service at the hospital, we go through the mechanics of billing for that through our patient financial services department so that we collect the money associated with the services that we're providing in the community.
So you have that first impression that people right up front, because how they collect the information in helps you on the back end and billing with accuracy and timeliness, right?
That's
that
right.
whole cycle. So that's awesome. So you've been here for a little bit now. What assessments are you making? What are you finding that's working well, and maybe some challenges or surprises that you've come across? What's your quick assessment? I know you haven't been here that long, so we won't hold it to you a year from now, but just...
Right. Well, you can't spend 30 years in healthcare and not be somewhat agile to changing priorities because there's so many stakeholders as part of the system, things that we can control and things that are beyond our control. But I'm happy to say actually not a lot of surprises. And I say that I think it's always good when there's a lot of transparency transparency in the onboarding process. And when you're recruiting, it really is a two-way street. It's a good fit for the employer, and you want it to be a good fit for the candidate. And so I believe I came into the situation with a lot of clarity about where NMC was within the healthcare system, not only in this community, but the greater state of Vermont. And some of the things that are different, like the Green Mountain Care Board, regulatory oversight of healthcare delivery and spend is unique. But also one of the things that intrigued me about coming to Vermont, because I do believe that our healthcare system is broken, and I say that with all the love of having spent 30 years in the industry. We have got to try to change the incentives and alignments of how we deliver care, and this is an organization that has wrapped around that, and so I'm very excited to see that really the walk of the organization matches the talk of the organization.
That's great. That's great to hear that, because we want to be real, right?
Right.
I mean, and be authentic, and work hard to take great care of this community. And so, in order to do that, we have to be open and honest and be trusted partners for each other and for our community.
Absolutely.
So, thank you. So, it wasn't too long ago that we had the Green Mountain Care Board in our hospital, and we had a public forum. And as you look at the Green Mountain Care Board, our budgeting process, and where we're at financially as an organization, and it's hard to describe, we're a solid organization, but we're losing money, and the why behind that.
Right.
And I have a funny feeling you're going to be coming back and do a series on this, because our time is, certainly our time is seems to go so fast on these shows, but to give some impression to the community of your fresh eyes and where that's at, and you really did a fantastic job of translating our circumstances and that of the state. So I think for those that were not in the room, I know it was a full house, which I'm grateful for, with legislators and community. But that assessment of what's happening at Northwestern Medical Center financially, and I know we're going to leave people hanging and wanting you to come back to do more, okay?
No pressure there, Jill. It is, first and foremost, it is a very complicated process. You can't pursue the path of change that Vermont is on and not have growing pains. When you are blazing a trail, you don't have that roadmap. You're making the map as you go. And I think one of the things that sort of in the midway point of the all-payer waiver and marking the progress from fee-for-service as a percent of business to a capitated model, it requires you to upfront a lot of that investment to be successful in capitation, and the reimbursement isn't catching up. And so one of the things that I'm very grateful that the Green Mountain Care Board are asking good questions around that, and I think that they are beginning to recognize that, we don't want to make the pie bigger, but we may have to look at how the pie is divided. And as we're moving more into capitation, what impact is the good work hospitals in Vermont, in particular NMC, is doing around wellness and lowering cost and utilization? Those costs are being felt throughout the system, not just in that population of attribution under capitation. And so how can we make sure through the Green Mountain Care Board oversight that those savings get redistributed to those parties that are on the forefront and bearing all of that initial risk? And NMC is at the forefront of that. They have been part of this from day one. I would say from a business plan perspective, have made all the right decisions. What's lagged behind is the reimbursement and payment for those. And so that delta is several $1 million cumulative year over year that we need to try and correct.
So do you think this is a year that we're on track to reconcile our budget? I mean, what is this forecasting forward for the budget of 2020? How is NMC positioned for this upcoming year?
I think it's still a challenge. I really think we have to spend 2020 certainly more prepared a lot of good work in the last year around what expense reduction we could do without jeopardizing and preparing us for the future. There is the expectation that we will move from 30% capitation to 50% capitation from our ACO, One Care Vermont. So this year, I think, is really, are we going to hit that number?
Yeah.
And if we hit that number, then we need to figure out how to address budgeting in a different way, because all of the trimming of the fat, so to speak, I won't say my colloquialism from getting blood from a turnip.
Well, you
even
just
though
said it.
I know I had to. It's the state vegetable. Someone told me afterwards I should have said there's only so much sap in the tree, but I'm like, well, I am from Alabama. We grow turnips.
Well, it's going to take a little bit of time here to get her into Vermont, but blood from a turnip for today.
Exactly. So I think a lot of that work in the first 2.5, 3 years, I guess is year one, sort of the base year, has been done. And so now really, and you look at NMC, it's a huge revenue hit. And that's really where the difficulties come from. And that is hard to explain. How you can be strong, how you can provide service, stay on the leading edge, and still lose money.
Right.
But when you're creating a healthier population and controlling utilization in the direction that we need to, lower cost, lower utilization, you're creating that delta, and we need the Green Mountain Care Board to address it.
It is so true. I mean, for all these years, we've been an organization, every hospital is about sick care, right? And so come in to the emergency department, come in, we'll keep you overnight. And now we're trying to lower those costs and keep people healthy, so they're going to their primary care office and doing more of the wellness. So because we're lowering our emergency department in that example, we have lower revenues because we're still in that older system and not in the new incentivized system for keeping people out.
Right.
So it's hard to explain.
It is. Well, I think you queued up a great example with the ED in that because we are successful in our wellness activity, we're lowering utilization in a department, though that has to be staffed and ready for everything.
Correct.
And you don't have that traditional payment for the utilization coming through to support those activities. But we still have a 24/7 department that has to be willing to handle, not just trauma, acute care injuries, but, behavioral health issues and addiction issues that present through the ED as well.
Yes, I mean, and we're going to be investing in the emergency department. We're waiting for the state to approve. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. I've had some questions about that. Why would we be spending money for that emergency department? And it's, I don't know what your early thoughts are on that, but to me it's an imperative as we move forward, but it's a question worth asking.
No, I think from more, not a clinical person like yourself, but I have immersed myself in the clinical operations. I don't think I can be a good financial partner if I don't understand a day in the life of any of the stakeholders that I work with on a daily basis. So my first week on call, which I'm still on call for the hospital, I happened to be in the hospital and there was an event in the emergency room, and just knowing that it's all hands on deck, you want to protect the exits and make sure that patients as well as the incoming patient is taken care of. It really highlighted for me just the variety, and you look at our community needs assessment. Well, if you match and you think that every person represented in that assessment presents at some point through the ED, and we're just not equipped for the special circumstances of having a safe room, of keeping that activity, of trying to calm a patient that may be having an emotional event or an addiction event, as well as trying to take care of the patients that may have come in with a broken leg and keep everyone safe and getting the care that they need.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take long to be in that emergency department for safety and privacy and of staff and patients. I mean, and the layout for visibility, all of those things. So, Well, believe it or not, our time is like
Oh, wow.
coming crazy to an end. So you can see, I've really figured out there's many things we're going to have you back on to
I'd
to
love
talk
to.
about. But because there is so much going on, it's stressful. So what do you do for fun? And that's how we'll close out our time together. Bring it back to you. We fit a lot in a short period of time. So what do you do for fun to keep balanced and ready for your day and your work?
Well, I do enjoy riding a bike, and I love just taking excursions around town, around the area, and photography. And
wow.
so I'm not a photographer. I am thankful for my DSR camera where I can take 100 pictures and hope to get one good one, but still it's a process I enjoy. But really just immersing myself into the community, and I'm looking forward to being more involved, and that's what I do for fun. I really want to be able to see the impact that I can have through healthcare and through NMC.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining this show.
Thank you for having me.
It'll be great having you back, but it's wonderful to have you here. You bring different perspectives. That's what we need right now. So thank you for being part of this team and this community.
Thank you, Jill. Happy to be here.
Yeah. I'm Jill Bowen, CEO of Northwestern Medical Center, and your host of the Health Beat Show. Thank you for joining us, learning about Robyn. It's great to have her on the team, and I can tell you we're going to have more opportunities to talk with her. So thank you for joining us today.